Thanks for joining us for Up to Speed on this Thursday. We've got some big updates to share with you today as we catch up with Craig Silliman, our Chief Administrative Officer and Interim HR Lead. We are going to discuss the latest developments related to the federal vaccine requirements. As always, Craig, it is wonderful to have you on today. I know you have some important updates for us.
I do, Andy. Thanks so much for the invitation. I really wanted to come join you today to talk a little more about the new federal requirements around the COVID-19 vaccines and how we're planning to comply with those requirements. First of all, I want to say I'm going to share some details with you today. There are a number of dates. It can be a little confusing, but as soon as we're done with Up to Speed today, I'm going to be sending all of you in the U.S. an email that provides all of these details and more. So here, what we really want to do is just kind of hit some of the high points. So last time I was on Up to Speed with you, Andy, I talked about the fact that the federal government had just issued some new requirements around the COVID-19 vaccine. And specifically, the government talked about the fact that they were going to be coming out with new rules applying to companies with more than 100 employees and with rules for federal contractors. And we fall into both of those categories. So the government's now come out with more detail around the federal contractor rule. We're still waiting for more of the rules around the more than 100 employee requirements. But over the past few weeks, we've been going through these requirements, making sure we fully understand the details, both of what's already out and what we expect to be coming down the pike in terms of additional requirements. And we really look at this then in two buckets. First of all, the rules that apply to us as a provider of services to the federal government. And then secondly, what we think will be coming down as new requirements on us as a company with more than 100 employees. So when we put all that together, the bottom line of it is that for those of us in the United States, if you're not represented by a union, we expect for the most of us, we will need to provide proof that we're fully vaccinated, regardless of where we work or how often we come into a Verizon work location. So I noted there that that's generally applicable. So again, let me note that I'm talking to those of us in the United States. As always, for those outside the United States, we'll continue to communicate any different rules based on local requirements. Secondly, for those of you represented by a union, we're in discussions with the union and we'll have more information for you once we complete those discussions. And then those of you who are designated as home-based in Verizon Consumer Group, and so aren't coming into offices, these vaccine mandates don't apply to you. But for everyone else in the United States, we will be required to provide proof that we're fully vaccinated, Andy.
Yeah, and this is all ways that we comply with those federal government mandates there. Craig, are there any dates or deadlines that we should keep in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Really good question, Andy. And there are three dates I'd ask people to keep in mind. So the first date is December 8th, and that's the date that's laid out in the federal contractor rules by the federal government. So for those of us in the United States who are not represented by a union, and with the exception of those of you who work in retail stores, so those of you in consumer in retail stores, and those of you in the retail to business group, and then those of you who are in home-based jobs in Verizon Consumer Group. Those are the exceptions. For everyone else, the deadline to be fully vaccinated is December 8th of this year, December 8th, 2021. Now, for those retail teams I just mentioned, the consumer retail and the retail to business teams, the deadline for you to be fully vaccinated is February 1st of next year. Then finally, as of January 1st of next year, we will require that all contractors, vendors, visitors that come into our facilities are fully vaccinated. Also, as of January 1st of next year, we're going to require that any new hire be fully vaccinated. So that will be a condition of being employed as a new hire to Verizon as of January 1st of 2022, that you be fully vaccinated. Now, these schedules are all based on what the rules are now that have been laid out by the US government. If any of this changes and we have to change our policies, we'll of course communicate that to you. But these are the dates, that December 8th, January 1st, February 1st dates that are current dates based on the current law that's out there. Again, I know that's a lot. As soon as this Up to Speed's over, I'll be sending an email to those of you in the United States that lays all this out. We also have detailed FAQs on our COVID-19 employee resource page. And if you still have questions after that, you can submit them to the Ask HR mailbox, and we'll put a link in that in the materials we send out to that HR mailbox.
Certainly a dynamic situation as we watch what the federal government is doing. Those dates, again, in that email coming up here, Craig. So I have one question here for you, and this is specifically about states like Texas, putting limits on vaccine requirements. requirements. Do you anticipate these requirements will apply in those locations?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure that's a question a lot of our V-teamers have as we see Texas and maybe other states making moves here. The rules I've just laid out are meant to allow us to comply with the federal requirements. In the materials we send out, in addition to instructions on how to upload your vaccine status, there'll be an opportunity to apply for an accommodation if you believe that you qualify for a legally recognized accommodation. There will be an opportunity to apply for that through our accommodation process, and we will take those into consideration as we look at these over the next couple of weeks. But again, these rules are meant to comply with the federal requirements that are out, but we will have a process for considering accommodations if they're legally recognized. And of course, as I mentioned, some of the federal rules are still coming out. The Texas executive order is fairly new. We're going to continue to monitor all the laws and changes in this area. And if any of our policies change, we'll of course communicate that to you.
And a big shout out to you and the HR team, Craig, for making sure that we're watching for these potential changes. I'm sure V-teamers will have questions as we start to roll this out, the process. Any closing thoughts for our team?
Yeah, and first of all, my thanks to the entire team who's been working on this. These are very complicated situations, and the team has just done a fantastic job monitoring a very rapidly changing situation. Mainly, though, what I want to say is I know that many of you out there have views on these issues, views on vaccines, views on vaccine mandates, and some of you have very strongly held views, and those are on both sides of the aisle. The fact is, these are rules and laws and regulations that are being put out by the government that apply to us as a federal contractor, and they apply to us as an employer of more than 100 employees. We have to comply, and we will comply. I respect that you have different views on this. I value the fact that you have different views, and I value that I work for a company that we allow ourselves to have these different views. But I'd also encourage you to also respect other people's views as we talk about these things in the workplace. Remember, first and foremost, we're here to serve our customers. And whatever your views on these things are, please engage with your colleagues with respect and with courtesy. Finally, as always, at the end of the day, the most important thing of all this is our health and safety. So I encourage you to talk with your healthcare provider about the benefits of vaccines. Talk about how you best protect your health and well-being, those of your loved ones, your families, and move forward here in the next couple of weeks to protect yourself. Again, you're going to be getting an email from me shortly. It's going to have all these details in it. Please review that. Please visit our COVID-19 site. Please take a look at the FAQs. We've provided a lot of information there. And then if all of that doesn't answer your questions, please submit a question to the Ask HR mailbox and we'll be getting back to you right away. So Andy, thanks so much for having me here to explain all this news to the V-teamers.
As always, Craig, thank you so much for leading the way with compassion and transparency. It's great to have you on today. And of course, it's great to see our V-teamers today here on Up to Speed. Once again, as Craig mentioned, email coming to you shortly. Thanks so much for watching.